Okay, so for our quiz coming up tomorrow, here are the types of problems that you're gonna see in the very beginning. Okay, in the very beginning, they're gonna start you off with some factoring problems. Okay, just normal factoring. So factor. All right, and we're just gonna kind of work with the order in which you're gonna see them. So the first type of problem you're gonna see is gonna look something similar to this. So 12n cubed plus 6n squared plus 3n. Remember, you are going to be allowed to use that one piece of paper I gave you guys yesterday, the factoring flowchart, in case you're curious as to what you have to do. Okay? So if you start off with the factoring flowchart, the top left corner asks you, do they have something in common? So do these have something in common?
Yeah.
What do they have in common? An n, and what else?
3.
A 3. So let me take out a 3n, okay? So we're going to take out a 3n, and then I'm going to factor, okay? Remember, factoring means you're dividing, right? In this case. So if you have 12n cubed and you factor out 3n, in other words, you divide by 3 and then you divide by n, you end up with 4n squared, okay? And right now I can show you how I do that in my head in case you want to do it. But that's what you end up with the first one. Now, I'm going to put plus 6n squared, so this part right here, divided by 3n gives me 2 and n, right? And then plus 3n divided by 3n, so that's a 1, right? And there you go. You're done. Okay? So remember, if you don't know how to do that in your head, or if you don't want to, remember I showed you how I learned it a long time ago, right? So you could have done this, 12n cubed divided by 3n, 6n squared divided by 3n, right? You get every term and you divide it by your factor. All right? So 12n cubed divided by 3n, well, 12 divided by 3 is 4. N cubed divided by n to the first. Remember, just subtract the power. So 3 minus 1, that's a 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. N squared divided by n is just n to the first because the power is 2 minus 1. Okay, and then 3n divided by 3n, they cancel, so it's just the 1. That's how I got this part right here. Okay, I just do that in my head. I don't write it out. Okay, so you don't have to show your work for it if you don't want to. That's okay. But that's how you would do it if you were going to show work. Okay, you break it down little by little. So anyhow, this is the first problem right here. Questions on that one before I move on? All right, so part B. Whoops, sorry about that. Part B looks like this: a squared minus a minus 6. So we're just factoring that. And remember, you're going to go through that flowchart and ask yourself, does this have anything in common? So no, right? Does this have 4 terms? No, just that doesn't have 4. Does it have 3 terms? Yes. So then try the X method, okay, and see if that works. So remember, with the X method, I like to, you don't have to, I like to list my ABCs. Yeah, some of you guys get up late. Feel free to go turn it off. Don't worry. So who knows? For all I know, nobody knows who they're. Okay. I was gonna say, for all I know, one of you guys are gonna be watching this to review later on tonight. It's gonna bore you. You're gonna fall asleep, and that's gonna wake you up. So that is the. It's not yours. Well, let me pause it real quick. So like I said, I do like to list my ABCs just to have them there. Okay, you don't have to. That's my preference. Okay, make an X method there. So A times C goes on top, that's a -6, and B goes on the bottom, that's a -1. So at this point, you ask yourself 2 numbers that multiply to -1 that add up to 2 numbers that multiply to -6 that add up to -1. -3 and 2. So let me write this down here, -3 and a +2. So negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. That's perfect. Do I need to divide? No, I don't, because a is 1, right? So that means this is my solution. So I'm going to go ahead and factor this out. It's going to be a minus 3, a plus 2, and that's it. Okay? So there you go. There's another type of problem that you're going to be seeing tomorrow. Any questions on this one? So I'm going to try to attack everything you're going to see. That way you can feel confident if you practice this and you did well. You'll feel like, okay, I got this. This is good. Remember, anything I do on the reviews, I try to make sure I give you guys a little bit of everything, like a little bit of difficult problems, a little bit of easier problems. That way we know we covered everything. So here's the next one. Again, if you're using your factoring flowchart, this does not have anything in common. It is not 4 terms. It is 3 terms. So you're going to use X method for it. Okay? So I'm going to list my ABCs. So A is 2, B is 11, and C is 12. And I notice that A is not 1. A is 2. That means I'm going to have to divide, right? I'm going to have to divide this out, okay? So let me make my X method right here. So 2 times 12 is 24. And B is 11, so that goes down to the bottom. I need 2 numbers that give me 24 when I multiply, 11 when I add. 8 and 3, right? So 8 and 3, positive 8, positive 3. But I do need to divide, right? I got to divide by what number? A 2. So here we go. On the left side, that's a positive 4. On the right side, I can't divide it. Okay? So it's just going to be at 3/2, which means I'm going to have to rewrite my answer with one extra step here. So I'm going to get x plus 4, x plus 3/2, which basically becomes x plus 4 and 2x plus 3. All right, so there you go. So this is your solution for that one right there. Another trinomial, another X method type problem. But you are going to have to fix the answer at the very end. Are we okay with that one? We got 2 more variations. These are not going to be trinomials. Let me see. So this is where we're at. All right, so here's D. All right, so here's another one. Because there will be 2 terms type stuff, right? So when you're doing this right here, you do want to ask yourself if they have something in common, which they don't. Is it 4 terms? No. Is it 3 terms? No. Is it 2 terms? Yes. Is it a difference of 2 squares? Well, that's what we got to find out. So we're going to write something squared minus something squared. Okay? So what squared is 16x squared? 4x, right? Yeah, 4x. And what squared is 81? 9. So all you have to do is write 4x minus 9, 4x plus 9, and that's it. Okay? So these are easier. You just got to remember the pattern, right? And I gave you that in the little flow chart. It's there, the a minus b, a plus b. You just got to be able to write down what is the thing that you square for both terms, and then just write it out in parentheses. So we got one more. Which one haven't we done yet? I mean, we've done the 4 terms, right? So obviously, there's a 4 terms coming right now. Okay, so this is the last one. of these, and then we're going to do some solving, but we'll do the easy solving because I don't need to go over the whole process through all the different types. We're going to do 2 solving, and then we're going to do 2 review, and then we're done. Okay. So this one is a 4-term factor. Okay. Again, if you start with your factoring flow chart, the first question is, do they have anything in common? They almost all have a y, but they don't. They don't all have a number that's divisible by 3. So they don't have anything in common. Then the next question is it 4 terms? Yes, it is. Now, if it's 4 terms, then what you're supposed to do is, I'm just going to rewrite it down here. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but I'm just going to rewrite it really quick. You're supposed to get the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms and put a parenthesis there. Okay? But there's something else I'm supposed to do if there's a minus stuck in the middle. What else am I supposed to do? That plus at the end needs to become a minus, okay? So at this point now you start asking yourself, what do those parentheses have in common? So the left side parenthesis has a y squared in common. So I'm going to take out a y squared, and that leaves me with a y minus 1. Then minus. The other parenthesis has a 3 in common, so I'm going to put a 3 out, y minus 1. How do I know that I did this right? Yeah, look at those 2 parentheses, they match. If they match, that means I'm on the right track of doing this thing correctly. I'm just going to kind of highlight them here to make it more of an obvious thing. So I'm going to write the matching part by itself. And then in the other parenthesis, you write down the leftovers, the stuff I didn't highlight. So y squared minus 3. The nice thing about 4-term factoring, most people say this is a hard way to do it. I think it's actually one of the easiest ways because it actually tells you whether you're doing it right or wrong. Okay, like you know as you work through it, there's going to be a point where you have to have matching parentheses. If you don't, you're wrong. So you got to go back and check. Okay? If you do, then you kind of feel like, okay, good. All I got to do is write that matching piece and the leftovers, right? And then you're good. So that's why I like this one, even though it looks like it's the worst one. But to me, it's nice because you can check. You can check right away as you do your work. All right, so we did all the factoring. You're going to have like, I don't even know. I don't have the test in front of me, but I think, if I'm correct, you're going to have 2 of each, I think. And we've done 5 different things, right? A, B, C, D, E. That means there's going to be 10 problems on factoring, just factoring, not solving. And then I think they give you 2 or 3 where you're solving. So we're going to do that next. Okay? But you're going to have factoring. I think you only have 1 of these, 1 of the 4 terms, but then 2 of the rest of them. So let's go ahead and do the solving portion of it. Give me a second. I'm just trying to space it out properly. So we're going to solve. And we're only going to do 2 of these. I know we can do tons of them if we want to, but we've already done a lot of factoring. We don't have to keep going through that like crazy. So first one is going to look like this. So these are the ones that I told you I consider the really easy ones because they already did all the work for you. You don't have to do anything other than solve. There's no factoring required by it. Okay? So it's already been pre-factored for us. According to the zero product property, and I'm just going to kind of write that down right here. If AB equals 0, then A is 0 or B is 0. Right? That's the property, the zero product property. Again, this is an algebra 1 property, okay? So it's not like it's an algebra 2, or shall I say math 1, math 2. So this is a math 1 property you guys did before. Okay? So if you have 2 things multiplied together and they're equal to 0, split them up and solve each one individually, okay? So here we go. X plus 5 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 is equal to 0. So my answer for the left one is either x equal to negative 5 or x equal to 3. So my solutions are going to be -5 and 3. So the nice thing about these problems is that they're already factored for you. All you got to do is the solving part. Okay? You don't have to do anything else like tricky. It's set up, break them apart, and solve each one individually and write your answer. And that's it. Yeah, that's all you got to do. So you will have some like that, but then you're also going to have some that are not factors. So we're only going to do one. Okay? Like I said, we already kind of overkilled the factoring thing, but I do want to at least do one. That way you don't blame me for you didn't know how to do something. Oh, Mr. V didn't show us how to do one of these, right? So let me make sure I show you at least one, and then after that we're going to do 2 review problems, and that's it. Okay, it's actually one problem with 2 parts to it. So if we have to solve this, we have to get it factored first. Okay. What we have on the left side is a trinomial, right? It doesn't have anything in common. It's not 4 terms, but it is 3 terms. So I am going to be able to use my x method to break this apart. A is 1, B is 2, and C is -8. You'll notice I made sure A was 1 so we didn't have to do any extra work. I know we already did something like that. So here's your x. 1 times -8 goes on top. 2 goes on the bottom. What 2 values multiply to -8 and add to 2? Hold on, I heard 4 and -2? Or okay, I thought I also heard a different number, but 4 and -2, is that correct? Yes, because 4 times -2 is -8. 4 minus 2 is 2, so we're good. I don't have to divide, so these are my answers. Okay? So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and write P plus 4, P minus 2. And guys, please don't forget when it comes to this type of problem that you're supposed to solve. I know that there's going to be somebody either in this class or the next class that when they factor it, they're going to be so happy they did it that they're going to just kind of say, this is my answer and I'm done, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could. Some people say, like, is it just like basically get what I got on the x sides and just make it the opposite? So my answer will be, so look at the 2 things I circled right here. This is what she's talking about. Can I just write my answers as -4 and +2? That's what they're going to come out to. Yeah, that's what they will come out to. So yeah, you can definitely just write that down. See, and those are little things you start to notice the more you practice. You start to say, like, wait a minute, I can do a real quick shortcut. I can just use that, right? Sure. Well, the only bad thing for you guys is I don't teach shortcuts, right? I'll let you figure it out if you know it. I know the shortcuts. I don't teach them to people because shortcuts are found through practice, right? I don't like to show them to people who haven't practiced because then they think that's the trick and they don't learn how to do the rest of it, right? So, all right, so we split them up and I'm going to subtract 4. So this will be P equal to -4 and the other one will be P equal to 2, which notice is the opposite of what's circled in green, right? So here's my solution. P equal to -4 and 2. All right, we got one more problem. It has 2 parts. It's a review problem. It's not something from factoring. Are we okay with this one? Any questions on it? Comments, concerns? Any comments or concerns for anything above this example? Okay, because we've done 7 things so far, I think. Yeah, we did 5 and then 2 more. All right, so I guess we're good. Give me a second. Here's the last one. It is a review problem. Identify the y-intercept and vertex. So y equal to 3x squared minus 5x plus 2. You know what? Let me change that minus 5x, because or else I'm going to get a weird fraction. I'm hoping not to give you any fractions. Let me make it a minus 6x. That'll just make it a little bit nicer. All right. So what is my y-intercept? You don't have to do anything to get this answer. It's c, which is what?
2.
2. So there we go. Y-intercept done. Okay. Next, I need my vertex. But since this is in standard form, your vertex, first you got to find your axis of symmetry. So that's x equal to negative b over 2a. I know that b is negative 6, so that's going to be x equal to negative of a negative 6 over 2 times a, which is 3. All right. Negative of a negative 6 is a positive 6, and 2 times 3 is 6, so x would be 1. Now remember, your vertex is a point, right? So I'm going to write the number 1 right there, because I know that that's my x value for it. What do I do with that x value? Plug it into my equation, and that's going to give me my y value, right? So y equal to 3 times 1 squared minus 6 times 1 plus 2. So y is equal to 1 squared is 1, so 3 times 1 is 3 minus 6 plus 2. 3 minus 6 is negative 3 plus 2. So that's negative 1. And there's my vertex. Okay? So this is they're gonna give you 2 questions at the end of the test. I think it's 2, if I remember correctly. One of them is going to ask you to find the y-intercept, so you just got to look at the equation, look at the number at the very end, and write it down. The other one is going to ask you to find the vertex. Okay? So they're going to be in standard form. So it's not going to be in vertex form. That's easier, right? Vertex form would be perfect. You'd know how to find it really quick. But based on what I saw, it's going to be in standard form, so you're going to have to do this process to find the vertex.